Have you ever wondered how to recognize the darkness hidden behind a smile? How to see the warning signs before the damage is done? Evil isn't always loud or obvious. It often wears a mask, blending into the crowd, but beneath the surface, certain patterns emerge, revealing the true nature of those who harm others without conscience. Today, we'll uncover these signs not to judge, but to protect ourselves and those we love, because awareness is the first step toward breaking free from negativity and walking a path of strength and light. You see, one of the most telling signs of evil isn't loud or flashy. It's silent, subtle, but profoundly destructive: the absence of empathy. When we talk about empathy, we're talking about that deep, human ability to feel what others feel, to understand their joys, their struggles, their pain. Compassion is what bridges the gap between a me and a you. It's the invisible thread that connects hearts. Without it, a person becomes isolated in their own world, blind to the impact they have on those around them. Evil people don't just lack kindness here and there, they lack the very capacity to truly connect with others on an emotional level. They see people not as human beings, but as objects, tools to be used, obstacles to be overcome, or pawns in a game they are determined to win. This lack of empathy makes them dangerous because it removes the brakes that stop most of us from causing real harm. When you cannot feel the pain of another, when their suffering doesn't register as anything more than background noise, it's easier to hurt, manipulate, or exploit without remorse. Think about the times in your own life when someone hurt you deeply, maybe with harsh words, betrayal, or cold indifference. What made that pain worse wasn't always the action itself, but the fact that the person didn't seem to care. They couldn't or wouldn't see you as a fellow human being with feelings and dreams. That's the hallmark of this absence, a profound disregard for the emotional world of others. It's not just that they choose to be cruel, often, they simply don't have the emotional wiring to understand what kindness even means. This emptiness inside creates a vacuum where darkness thrives. Without empathy, their hearts harden, and they begin to view others through a distorted lens of suspicion, superiority, or apathy. They don't walk through life with a sense of shared humanity. Instead, they see division, us versus them. And that separation justifies whatever means they choose to achieve their ends. You might wonder, how do we recognize this in the real world? It's not always obvious because evil people are often skilled at hiding their true selves behind a mask of charm or false concern. But look closer. Notice when someone repeatedly dismisses your feelings, invalidates your pain, or refuses to take responsibility for how their actions affect others. Watch for those who consistently exploit others' vulnerabilities without a hint of regret. These are red flags of a deeper absence inside, a missing empathy that prevents genuine connection. This isn't about labeling someone who makes mistakes or has moments of selfishness. We all fall short sometimes. But empathy is what calls us back, what makes us human, what gives us the capacity to grow and change. When it's missing entirely, it signals something far more dangerous. Evil thrives in that void, and it's important to understand this, not so you become bitter or cynical, but so you can protect your heart. When you realize that some people simply cannot see your pain or value your humanity, you begin to set boundaries. You stop expecting kindness where it will never come. That awareness doesn't make you cold, it makes you wise. It frees you from the chains of hoping for empathy from those who are incapable of giving it. Empathy is also the foundation for all healing and transformation. Even the darkest souls can sometimes be reached through the light of genuine understanding and compassion, but only if they first acknowledge the emptiness inside. Without that willingness, empathy can't take root. Evil resists connection because connection demands vulnerability, and vulnerability exposes the cracks in their carefully constructed armor. So when you meet someone who consistently shows no care for others' feelings, who moves through life leaving pain and destruction in their wake, recognize this as a sign. Not to judge harshly, but to understand deeply, because once you understand the absence of empathy as a root cause, you can see the patterns more clearly. You learn that evil isn't just about bad choices, it's about a broken capacity to relate, to feel, to care. And here's the paradox: the lack of empathy that makes them dangerous is also the key to your strength. Because when you embrace empathy fully, when you choose to feel deeply, to care genuinely, you build a shield no evil can break. Your compassion becomes your power, your connection to others becomes your fortress. Evil thrives in isolation and coldness, but love and empathy create warmth and light. That light can never be extinguished if you nurture it within yourself. It's what transforms pain into purpose, hurt into healing, and darkness into hope. So remember this truth as you navigate the world: the absence of empathy is one of the clearest signs of evil. But your presence of empathy is one of the strongest weapons against it. There's something deeply unsettling about manipulation. It's a shadow that creeps in quietly, almost unnoticed at first, until it's controlling every move you make. When we speak of evil, manipulation is one of its most powerful tools. It's not always the forceful kind that breaks doors down. Often it's subtle: a whisper, a carefully crafted word, a smile that hides 1,000 intentions. Manipulative people don't just want to get what they want to shape your reality, twist your perception, and bend your will so that you serve their purpose, often without even realizing it. The manipulator is an expert at reading people, understanding their weaknesses, their desires, their fears, and then using that knowledge like a weapon. It's not just about getting ahead, it's about control. They want to control the narrative, the situation, and ultimately, the people around them. This control gives them a sense of power, a feeling of dominance that they crave. And what's frightening is how skilled they are at making you believe it's your idea, your choice, your own free will leading you where they want you to go. When you're caught in manipulation, it feels confusing. You may find yourself questioning your own judgment, doubting your instincts, feeling anxious or guilty for things you never truly agreed to. That's the beauty of manipulation. It wears down your inner voice, replacing it with doubt and insecurity. The manipulator never shows their true face up front. Instead, they create a web of half-truths, compliments, and subtle pressure, weaving a story that serves their agenda perfectly. And make no mistake, manipulation isn't limited to grand schemes or obvious lies. It can show up in everyday interactions, in relationships, workplaces, even within families. Maybe it's the person who always turns a conversation back to themselves, using your vulnerabilities against you, or the one who pretends to be your ally, only to sow seeds of doubt about your other friends or colleagues. These small acts chip away at your confidence, making you dependent on their approval or guidance. Manipulative behavior is often cloaked in charm and charisma. That's what makes it so dangerous. The person who manipulates can appear caring, attentive, even loving. They know how to mirror your emotions, how to make you feel seen and understood, at least superficially. But beneath that facade lies a calculating mind that uses those moments to gather power. It's a form of emotional theft, taking pieces of your trust, your peace, your clarity, and using them to build their fortress of control. What's even more tragic is that manipulation erodes not just your external relationships, but your relationship with yourself. When you start doubting your own perceptions, your own feelings, you lose the foundation of who you are. The manipulator feeds on this confusion, using it to deepen their hold. You become trapped in a cycle where you're constantly seeking validation from the very person who's undermining you. But understanding manipulation is the first step toward breaking free. Recognizing these patterns allows you to reclaim your power. Notice when someone's words don't match their actions, when you feel pressured or rushed to decide, when compliments feel like traps, or when kindness comes with strings attached. These are signals that someone may be trying to manipulate your emotions or decisions, and here's a truth that's vital. Manipulation always hides fear. Behind that need for control is often a deep insecurity, a fear of losing power or status. The manipulator fears vulnerability because it exposes their weaknesses. They use manipulation as armor to protect themselves from the uncertainty of life. While this doesn't excuse their behavior, it does help us see that evil isn't always born of pure malice. Sometimes it grows from brokenness and fear. Still, you don't have to become a victim of that fear. You have within you the strength to see through the lies and resist being pulled into someone else's game. It starts with trusting yourself again, your intuition, your feelings, your right to say no. When you stand firm in your truth, manipulation loses its grip. The manipulator cannot control what they cannot deceive. This battle is not always easy. Manipulation is designed to wear you down, to make you question reality itself. But every time you choose honesty over deceit, clarity over confusion, freedom over control, you take a step toward breaking that cycle. You build resilience, you build a life where your choices are truly yours. Surround yourself with people who respect your boundaries, who encourage your growth, and who see you as a whole person, not a tool to be used. And remember, the strongest armor you can wear against manipulation is self-awareness. Know your worth, understand your limits, and never let anyone make you doubt your value. Manipulation thrives in the shadows, but when you bring it into the light, it loses its power. It can't survive exposure, honesty, and courage. So choose to shine your light, speak your truth, and hold fast to the knowledge that no one can control your soul unless you let them. There's something profoundly unsettling about watching someone cross lines that most people instinctively respect, those invisible boundaries that keep society functioning, that protect our shared humanity. When those are ignored, trampled on without a second thought, it signals something deeply wrong. This consistent disregard for moral boundaries is a defining mark of evil. It's not a single moment of weakness or a lapse in judgment. It's a pattern, a way of life. You see, most of us carry within us a moral compass. It's not just about rules written down somewhere, but an internal guide that tells us right from wrong. It's what stops us from hurting others, from taking more than we should, from crossing lines that damage relationships and communities. But for some, that compass spins wildly or is completely broken. When you encounter a person who consistently rejects these boundaries, you are facing someone who is willing to sacrifice anything and anyone for their own gain. It's important to understand what this looks like in everyday life. It might be the person who lies without remorse, not just to avoid trouble, but to manipulate, deceive, and gain an unfair advantage. It might be the individual who exploits others' trust, who steals from those who depend on them, or who uses power to intimidate and silence. Their actions show a blatant disregard for fairness, respect, and decency. These people don't just break rules, they break the very fabric that holds us together. What makes this even more dangerous is how they justify their actions. They create narratives in their minds that excuse their behavior. Everyone does it, they might say. I have to look out for myself. It's just business. These justifications are not born from truth or conscience, but from self-interest and a refusal to take responsibility. By bending reality to suit their desires, they blind themselves to the harm they cause, and when moral boundaries are consistently ignored, it doesn't just hurt others. It corrodes the soul of the person crossing those lines. There is a price to pay for this kind of living. While they may appear powerful and untouchable on the outside, inside there is often a growing emptiness, a loss of genuine connection, and a creeping sense of isolation. Because true strength comes not from taking without conscience, but from living in alignment with what is right and just. In your own life, you might have encountered this in many forms. Maybe it was someone who betrayed your trust repeatedly, who promised change but never delivered, who acted like rules and fairness didn't apply to them. It's exhausting and painful to be around someone like this because you never know where the line is or if it even exists for them. You start to question your own sense of justice, wondering if you are too strict or unreasonable. But remember, their disregard for moral boundaries is not a reflection on you, it's a reflection of their own brokenness. The consistency of this behavior is key. We all make mistakes, we all falter, but evil thrives in those who make a habit of crossing lines, who do so with cold calculation or reckless abandon. They don't hesitate, they don't waver, they move through life with the conviction that their desires and goals trump any sense of right or wrong. And this is why recognizing this sign is so important. When you see someone repeatedly disrespecting boundaries, don't ignore it or make excuses. This is a warning sign that their character is deeply flawed. This is not someone who can be trusted with your heart, your time, or your energy. Because moral boundaries are like fences around a garden. They protect what's good, beautiful, and life-giving. When those fences are torn down, chaos and destruction follow. But here's the truth that's often overlooked. Standing firm in your own moral boundaries is one of the greatest acts of courage you can show. It takes strength to say no when the world pressures you to bend or break. It takes resilience to hold on to integrity when shortcuts and compromises seem easier. And it takes wisdom to understand that true power doesn't come from trampling others, but from lifting them up. Evil cannot thrive where there is unwavering commitment to what is right. When you live by principles that honor, respect, honesty, and fairness, you create a foundation that no darkness can shake. And that foundation doesn't just protect you, it radiates outwards, influencing those around you to do the same. Your integrity becomes a beacon, a force of good in a world that desperately needs it. So when you encounter those who consistently disregard moral boundaries, don't be afraid to protect your own limits. Don't let their brokenness pull you into their chaos. Instead, stand tall in your values, speak your truth. Walk away from situations and people that demand you compromise who you are, because your moral compass is a gift, a guide that leads you to a life of peace, respect, and true fulfillment. Remember, evil isn't just about harmful actions, it's about a fundamental rejection of the shared codes that bind us together as human beings. And when those codes are broken without remorse, it reveals a heart hardened and a soul lost. But your choice to live differently, that choice lights the way back from darkness. There is a pattern you'll notice when you encounter people who harbor darkness in their hearts, a pattern marked by a refusal to take responsibility for their actions. This refusal, this persistent avoidance of accountability, is one of the clearest signs that something dangerous is at work beneath the surface. When someone never looks in the mirror to acknowledge their faults, their mistakes, or the harm they've caused, it's a sign they're unwilling to face the truth of who they are. Instead, they shift blame, deflect criticism, and twist reality so they can remain untouchable. You see, accountability is a cornerstone of growth and integrity. It's what separates those who strive to improve from those who are content to live in denial. When someone refuses to own their actions, they are essentially rejecting the possibility of change. They close the door on honesty, on learning, on redemption. Instead, they create a protective bubble where they can manipulate narratives and avoid consequences. This bubble keeps them trapped in a cycle of hurt and harm, where others are left to pick up the pieces. This blame shifting can take many forms. Sometimes it's overt, pointing fingers at others, making excuses, or playing the victim. Other times, it's more subtle, like minimizing the impact of their behavior or gaslighting those around them into doubting their own perceptions. Whatever form it takes, the effect is the same. It erodes trust, damages relationships, and fosters confusion. You start to question your own reality because the person who caused pain won't admit it, and instead insists that you are the one who's wrong. Living around this kind of person is exhausting. It's like walking on eggshells, never quite sure when you'll be blamed for something you didn't do, or when your feelings will be dismissed because they make the other person uncomfortable. It's a constant battle to hold onto your truth in the face of their denial and distortion, and make no mistake, this behavior is a form of control. By refusing accountability, they keep others off balance, making it easier to manipulate and dominate. What's important to remember is that this refusal is not just about avoiding punishment. It's about maintaining a false image, an illusion of perfection or innocence that shields them from judgment. They want to be seen as blameless, as above reproach, because admitting fault would expose their flaws and vulnerabilities. But true strength lies not in hiding mistakes, but in facing them head-on, learning from them, and growing beyond them. When you meet someone who constantly refuses to take responsibility, you're seeing a person who fears truth because truth demands change. They fear vulnerability because it threatens their control, and they fear humility because it undermines the facade they've built. This fear drives them to deflect blame and avoid owning their actions at all costs. But here's a vital truth. No one is perfect. Every person makes mistakes, hurts others, or falls short in some way. What matters is what we do afterward. Do we hide and deny, or do we face the consequences and seek to make things right? The willingness to be accountable is what separates the good from the truly harmful. It's what builds trust and heals wounds. Without it, relationships crumble and communities fracture. You might ask, how do you protect yourself from someone who refuses accountability? The answer lies in setting clear boundaries and refusing to engage in their blame games. When they try to twist the story or place fault where it doesn't belong, stand firm in your truth. Don't let them gaslight you into doubting your own experiences. Surround yourself with people who value honesty and responsibility, those who admit when they're wrong and strive to do better. In doing this, you reclaim your power. You take back control of your own reality instead of allowing someone else to dictate it. And by holding these boundaries, you send a message that you will not tolerate manipulation or deceit, this is not about punishment or revenge, it's about protecting your peace and integrity. Refusing to accept their denial also means not wasting energy trying to convince them to change. Some people are so deeply entrenched in their avoidance that no amount of reasoning will break through. Accepting this can be difficult, but it's necessary. You cannot force accountability on someone who is unwilling. What you can do is control your response. Choose to walk away from toxic patterns and invest your energy in those who respect your truth. Ultimately, accountability is a form of courage. It's the courage to face our flaws, admit when we're wrong, and make amends. It's the courage to be vulnerable and authentic, even when it's uncomfortable. When you see a pattern of blame, shifting, and denial, recognize it as a sign of someone lacking this courage, and therefore, someone who may bring harm rather than healing. Your own willingness to embrace accountability, to own your story fully, becomes a powerful contrast to their denial. It sets a standard not just for yourself, but for those around you. It invites others to rise above excuses and embrace honesty. And it creates a foundation for genuine connection, built not on lies or deflections, but on truth and trust. So when you see someone refusing to take responsibility, don't let their denial shake your foundation. Hold fast to your truth. Protect your peace, and remember, accountability is not a weakness, it's the truest sign of strength. There's a force that some people carry with them wherever they go, a force that doesn't lift others up but tears them down. It's subtle at first, like a chill in the air, but soon it becomes undeniable. The presence of someone who consistently spreads negativity, who poisons the atmosphere with fear, distrust, and conflict, is one of the clearest signs that darkness walks among us. This persistent negative influence is a hallmark of evil because it undermines the very fabric of community and connection. You've probably felt it yourself, being around someone whose words drain your energy, whose actions sow division rather than unity. It's exhausting and disorienting, as if you're constantly on guard, unsure if the next moment will bring peace or turmoil. This kind of person doesn't just react to the world, they shape it to fit their own shadowy desires, creating chaos and confusion wherever they tread. What's important to understand is that this negativity isn't accidental or born from simple frustration. It's a pattern, a deliberate and consistent way of being. They thrive on discord because it gives them control. When people are divided, suspicious, and fearful, it's easier to manipulate them, to keep them small and powerless. This is not a coincidence, it's a strategy rooted deeply in the desire to dominate and disrupt. Often, these individuals cloak their behavior in excuses. They might say they're just being real or honest, or blame their negativity on external circumstances. But honesty that tears down rather than builds up isn't true honesty, it's a weapon disguised as truth. And when negativity becomes the default way they relate to others, it doesn't reflect reality, but their own internal turmoil and brokenness. You might notice how their presence affects even the most joyful moments. They find fault in celebrations, cast doubt on good news, and drain hope from hopeful hearts. This persistent gloom is a form of emotional erosion, slowly wearing down resilience and optimism in those around them. It's no wonder people instinctively pull away, sensing the danger before it's even spoken aloud. This toxic influence also disrupts trust, which is the cornerstone of any meaningful relationship or community. When someone sows distrust, suspicion grows like weeds, choking out the bonds that hold people together. Without trust, cooperation falters, communication breaks down, and isolation sets in. This fractured state benefits the one who spreads negativity because it creates dependency, fear, and confusion, fertile ground for manipulation. But this pattern of negativity is not just about others, it reflects a deep pain and emptiness inside the person who carries it. Behind the harsh words and divisive actions lies often a wounded soul desperate for control and validation. They are trapped in a cycle of hurt and bitterness, unable or unwilling to find healing. Their constant shadow casts darkness not only outward but inward, eroding their own capacity for joy and peace. Recognizing this persistent negative influence is crucial because it helps you protect yourself and those you care about. You don't have to tolerate an environment where fear and distrust dominate. You don't have to carry the weight of someone else's darkness. Instead, you can choose to create space for light, for kindness, understanding, and hope. And here's the power you hold. Negativity loses its grip when met with consistent positivity and truth. when you refuse to be drawn into the cycle of conflict, when you respond with calm and clarity, you break the pattern. You become a beacon of stability and peace. This doesn't mean ignoring problems or pretending everything is perfect. It means facing reality with courage and grace, refusing to let darkness define your world. Surround yourself with those who build you up, who celebrate life's joys, and who stand firm in hope. These connections are a shield against the corrosive effects of persistent negativity. They remind you that even in the darkest places, light can shine. So when you encounter those who spread fear, distrust, and division wherever they go, understand that this is a sign of a heart weighed down by evil's burden. But also know that you have the strength to rise above it, to choose love over fear, unity over division, and light over darkness. There's a hunger deep within some people that never seems to be satisfied, a hunger for power and control that drives their every action. It's a relentless pursuit that doesn't stop at what's right or fair, but pushes forward regardless of who is hurt along the way. This is one of the clearest signs of evil, an insatiable desire to dominate, to bend others to their will, and to hold the reins tightly in their grasp no matter the cost. Power in itself is not evil. It can be a force for great good when wielded with wisdom and compassion. But when the pursuit of power becomes a quest for control over others, when it is fueled by selfishness, fear, or a sense of superiority, it transforms into something dark and dangerous. The craving to dominate blinds a person to the humanity of those around them. They see people not as individuals with rights and dignity, but as obstacles, tools, or pawns in a game they must win. What's chilling about this kind of person is how calculated they are. They don't just seek control randomly, they plan, manipulate, and scheme to extend their influence. They may use fear, intimidation, or charm to gather followers, and once they have control, they hold on with an iron grip. Freedom and autonomy for others are seen as threats to be crushed, because any loss of control feels like weakness. This drive for control often masks deep insecurity. The more they try to dominate, the more they fear losing what little power they have. This fear can lead to cruelty. As they lash out to protect their position, they become intolerant of dissent, punishing those who challenge them, and isolating themselves behind walls of suspicion. Their world shrinks to a narrow circle where they are always the center, the one who must be obeyed. But power gained through control is a fragile thing. It depends on fear and submission, which breed resentment and rebellion. No one who truly values themselves will willingly live under the shadow of someone else's domination. The more a person tries to control, the more they push others away, and the more isolated and lonely they become. True strength, in contrast, is not about controlling others, but empowering them. You've likely seen this pattern in different forms, whether in workplaces, families, or societies. The person who insists on having the final word, who dismisses others' ideas, who demands obedience rather than collaboration. The one who undermines others' confidence to keep them dependent. These behaviors are not signs of leadership, but signs of fear disguised as power. Recognizing this relentless pursuit of control is vital because it allows you to protect your own freedom and dignity. When you encounter someone who seeks to dominate, you don't have to give in. You have the right to set boundaries, to refuse manipulation, and to assert your own voice. Freedom begins when you say, "I will not be controlled." This doesn't mean engaging in a power struggle or trying to overpower the oppressor. Instead, it means standing firm in your own worth and refusing to play the game on their terms. It means cultivating inner strength so that no one's attempts to dominate can shake your sense of self. It means seeking connection over control, cooperation over coercion. There is also a lesson here about where true power comes from. It doesn't come from fear or domination, but from love, respect, and trust. The person who empowers others, who listens and values different voices, who leads by example rather than command, holds a power that is far more enduring. This power builds community, fosters growth, and creates space for everyone to flourish. And here's the hope. Even those consumed by the desire to control can change, but only if they confront the fears beneath that desire. Only when they face their own vulnerability can they learn to lead with humility and compassion. Until then, they remain trapped in a cycle of domination and isolation, chasing a power that ultimately enslaves them as much as anyone else. For you, the choice is clear. Will you be drawn into this cycle of control and fear, or will you rise above it? Will you accept the false power that seeks to dominate, or will you embrace the true power that comes from freedom and love? Remember, no one can truly control your spirit unless you allow it. Your power lies in your choice to stand tall, to hold fast to your dignity, and to walk a path of strength that uplifts rather than oppresses. If you truly want to break free from the grip of darkness around you, it starts right here, right now. Choose to see the signs, stand firm in your truth, and refuse to let anyone steal your peace or control your destiny. Step into your power by embracing empathy, integrity, and courage. Don't wait for change to come, be the change. Take your life back, protect your heart, and shine so brightly that no shadow can dim your light. Your freedom, your strength, your future all begin with the choice you make today. Will you rise?